I used to think the scariest thing in my life was the dark corner of my childhood bedroom. Now I know it was what answered me back from that darkness. People say children make up imaginary friends. I wish that's all it was. Because when I finally repented and returned to Allah, it came back. And this time it was angry. I grew up in a practicing Muslim family, but my parents work late and I spent a lot of nights alone. I remember being 6 years old, lying in my bed, the streetlight leaking through the curtains, making that one corner of my room look deeper than the rest. It started with a feeling, like someone was watching me from there. Not in a cartoon monster way, just aware, focused. One night, I whispered into the dark, "Who's there?" I expected silence, of course, but I heard a sound, like a breath that wasn't mine, and the voice right next to my ear, though no one was there on the bed with me. It sounded like a child, neither boy nor girl. "I'm here." I froze. My skin prickled. I didn't scream. I don't know why. Maybe I was too shocked. Maybe something held my voice down in my throat. I remember slowly turning my head, expecting to see someone, but my room was exactly the same. My dolls on the shelf, my Quran on the bedside table, the shadowed corner, empty. From that night, it talked to me. Sometimes it would whisper from the corner, sometimes from the side of my bed, sometimes right above my face, like its lips were almost touching my skin. It never told me its name. When I asked, it would laugh, a soft, breathy sound. "Names are for you," it said once, "not for us." I told my mother, of course. I was a child. I said, "Mama, my friend talks to me from the corner." She smiled distractedly, kissing my forehead. "Imaginary friends are normal," she said. "Just say Bismillah and go to sleep." My father told me, half joking, that if I was scared, I should recite Ayatul Kursi, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Whoever recites it at night will have protection from Allah, and no shaitan will approach until morning." So that night, I tried to recite it. I got as far as Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum, and the voice whispered from the corner, "Why are you saying that?" I swallowed and kept reading, but the words tangled on my tongue. My heartbeat boomed in my ears. The reed sounded closer. "Don't say that. Talk to me instead." I stopped reciting, and instantly the pressure in the room faded, like something was pleased. "There," it said. "That's better." Over the months, it became my secret. It knew things it shouldn't know. It would say, "Your teacher will wear a red scarf tomorrow." And she did. It told me when my father would come home late. It told me when my neighbor's cat would die, 2 days before it happened. As a child, that felt like proof that it was real and that it cared. But it also started asking for things. "Don't pray tonight," it would whisper. "Stay awake and talk to me." If I picked up my small Quran, it would make a low humming sound in my ear, like static, growing louder and louder until I put it down. Once, when I tried to recite Surah Al-Fatiha out loud, my throat tightened so hard I started choking, coughing, my eyes watering. As soon as I stopped, the pressure eased, and the voice sighed, almost affectionately. "See, we're better together like this." I didn't understand what a jinn really was back then. I just knew that in the dark, I was never alone, and that the thing with me didn't like the Quran. Ibn Taymiyyah wrote that the jinn are drawn to children who are afraid and alone, who are not guarded by consistent dhikr. I didn't know his name then, but I was the child he described. Everything changed when I turned 11. My parents became stricter about my salah. I started attending Quran class. The more I prayed, the more restless the unseen presence became. One night, after I'd memorized the new surah, I recited it in bed, quietly. The room went icy. My breath became visible in the dim light, and the voice, no longer childlike, hissed in my ear. Stop talking to him when I'm here. That was the first time it sounded angry. I pulled the blankets over my head, heart pounding, whispering, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. The anger didn't fade, it surged. Something invisible pressed on my chest, pinning me down. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I could only repeat the isti'adha in my mind. Then, like a rubber band snapping, the weight vanished. I bolted out of my room and slept in the living room that night. After that, the voice went scientific. For years, it didn't speak. I grew older. Teenage years came with their own fitan, music, boys, parties behind my parents' backs. I drifted from prayer. When I stopped reciting Quran, my room felt lighter. I told myself that the imaginary friend was just a phase, a trick of childhood anxiety. I left for university in another city and sank deeper into heedlessness. I knew the ayah. Indeed, he, Shaytan, has no authority over those who have believed and rely upon their Lord. But against one of them then, I rarely prayed. I drowned out my conscience with noise and busyness, and for a while, life felt almost normal, until my 3rd year. One evening, I went to a party that crossed every rite I'd been raised with. On my way back to the dorm, something acceptance broke. I felt filthy, hollow, like I'd walked away from Allah so far I couldn't see His light anymore. That night, I cried on my dorm room floor until Fajr. I made tawbah, real tawbah, begging Allah, if you don't forgive me, I am lost. I don't know how many times I repeated it. I only know that when I stood for Fajr, after years of neglect, my legs trembled. That same day, I started wearing hijab properly. I deleted haram music. I cut off certain friends. I began praying on time, reciting Quran daily. For the first time since childhood, I felt a strange peace in my chest. Almost like that first sip of cold water after days of thirst. Ibn Kathir said that when a servant turns back to Allah, the shaitan feels humiliated. I didn't know then how personal that humiliation could be. The first sign came a week later. I was reciting Surat Al-Baqarah in my dorm room. The Prophet ﷺ taught that shaitan flees from a house where it is recited. I'd barely finished the first page when the overhead light flickered, then steadied. I told myself it was bad wiring, but then I felt it, that old sensation of being watched tightly from the corner of the room. My heart stuttered. The cheap dorm curtains barely moved, but the corner where they hung felt wrong, thicker, heavier. I tried to ignore it and kept reading. My voice shook, but I pushed forward. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, believers in the unseen. The irony made my throat tighten. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. The room was black except for the weak glow from my laptop charger. My mouth was dry. I rolled over to grab my water bottle, then froze. From the dark corner came a soft, familiar sound. Breathing. Not mine. I held my breath. The breathing continued, steady, too close. You left me, a voice said. It was the same voice from my childhood, older, hoarser, threaded with resentment. A memory slammed into me, a child under a blanket, a whisper in the ear. I choked out, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," my voice cracking. The Amera thickened. "You were mine," it said, closer now, though I could see nothing in the dark. "All those nights, you listened, you obeyed, you stopped praying for me." The mattress dipped slightly, as if someone unseen had sat at the edge of my bed. My skin crawled. I scrambled for my phone, fingers shaking, opening a Quran app. As soon as I pressed play on Surat Al-Baqarah, a high-pitched ringing filled my ears. The voice hissed, "Turn it off." I clutched the phone to my chest. "You are nothing compared to him," I whispered. "Allah is my protector." For a moment, there was silence. Then, something ice cold brushed against my ankle, like skeletal fingers. I jerked my leg away, biting down a scream. "You think a scarf and some words make you safe?" it sneered. "Come back. Come back to your old life. We were happy then." The way it said "we" made my stomach twist. In the days that followed, it didn't stop. Whenever I stood to pray, I felt invisible eyes on me. In sujood, my forehead pressed to the dorm carpet, I sometimes sensed the face inches from mine, staring, mocking. During lectures, a breath would tickle the shell of my ear, whispering temptations. "Skip dhuhr, watch that old show, message him again." It knew every sin I'd left. It dangled them like bait. One night, exhausted, I almost gave in. I sat on my bed scrolling through old playlists, the haram songs I deleted but could easily find again. My thumb hovered over one title that used to drown out my guilt years ago. And then I heard it, right behind me, so close I felt the warmth of its breath on my neck. "That's my girl," it crooned. "Come back, just one song. Just one step, that's all." My fingers twitched. For a terrifying moment, I wanted to obey. Not because I loved the song, but because the pull of that familiar darkness felt easier than fighting. It felt like gravity. Then a hadith flashed in my mind. The Prophet ﷺ said, "The shaitan flows through the son of Adam like blood." And I realized this thing had been circling me my entire life, waiting for an opening. I dropped the phone like it burned me and stumbled to my feet. "Allahu Akbar," I said out loud, forcing myself into takbirah. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. As I recited Al-Fatiha, the room grew colder, the air buzzing. My breath misted in front of me. In the middle of Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, the lights cut out completely, total darkness. For a split second, fear slammed into me so hard I almost broke the prayer. But I remembered Ibn al-Qayyim's words that patience in obedience crushes shaitan more than 1,000 empty curses, so I continued. Halfway through my second rak'ah, a deep, guttural growl reverberated right behind my head, like something crouched just above me. "You think he wants you," it spat. "You are dirty. You belong to us." Its voice twisted on the last word, stretching as if others were speaking through it. My legs shook so violently I thought I would collapse. I forced myself into sujood, pressing my forehead hard into the carpet. "Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la." I repeated it again and again. The growling rose, a storm all around me, the air vibrating. It felt like hands were hovering just above my neck, waiting for permission to crush. Then I began reciting Ayat al-Kursi in sujood, every word a lifeline. "Allahu la ilaha إلا هو الحي القيوم. My tongue stumbled, but I pushed through. The pressure increased until I could barely inhale. My ears rang. A shadow, thicker than the dark, pressed against my closed eyes like an eclipse. On the last words, وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ, something snapped. The growling cut off mid-sound, like someone had yanked the power cord from a speaker. The air lightened. I sucked in a gasping breath and collapsed into tashahhud, shaking. When I gave salam to the right and left, my cheeks were wet with tears. The light flickered back on a moment later. My room looked exactly the same, but in the upper corner, where the ceiling met the wall, the paint seemed faintly blackened, as if something had clung there, burning, and then fled. That night I didn't sleep. I read Surah Al-Baqarah until Fajr, my voice hoarse, every hair on my body standing on end. I remembered a tafsir of the verse. Indeed, there is for him, Shaytan, no authority over those who believe and rely upon their Lord. And I understood. It wasn't that he couldn't reach me, it was that he couldn't control me if I clung to Allah. The war wouldn't stop, but the outcome was already written. Years have passed. I still feel, sometimes, a watchfulness at the edge of the room when I make sincere tawbah, when I weep in dua, when I take a step closer to Allah. The whispers come in waves, softer now, itter. I don't answer them. I answer my Lord. The presence that once called itself my friend is just a reminder that the unseen is not a story. It is our reality. The most terrifying part is knowing that for years I chose its company over Allah's remembrance. But the most powerful truth is this: even the oldest, angriest jinn cannot cross the barrier of sincere tawakkul and steadfast dhikr. In the end, protection was never in my courage or my rituals. It was only and will always be in the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah is the best of protectors.